Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Pulp Blotter on 22 Panels, where Mark Pratt and I talk about crime comics. And this time we got crazy and decided to do a Batman crime comic, Batman First Night by Dan Jurgens, Mike Perkins, and Mike Spicer. And uh yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be as like that I think yeah is a little more dismissive than I would be about it. I mean, like I thought it was okay. I thought the art was kind of cool. It is
I thought it was a Batman comic.
well, of course, but I mean
No,
that's
but but I mean it like interchangeably with a lot of Batman comics. It certainly wasn't bad. The art was definitely cool. I don't regret reading it. Um,
I mean, I think I would say the art was cool. I would say one thing. This is the kind of art that drives me buggo when you can tell that almost all the backgrounds were photographs that they photoshopped.
right.
I get very frustrated with that. I mean, I realize that's the style and everything, but um, I like the figure drawing. I like the design elements. I like going back to that, Detective 27 sort of look.
Right.
I mean, it's the same way with, the Cape Crusader cartoon just premiered as we're
Which
recording.
was that I enjoyed quite a bit.
I enjoy that a lot, and I think that it does some of the same things as far as uh, I think the biggest problem that I have with this series is it seems to exist. And again, I don't know Dan Jurgens. I don't know what he was thinking, but
Right.
it seems to exist to be like, oh, you wanted to read those early Batman comics, but you can't deal with that 1930s artwork. And so here we're going to do a modern version of those stories because like it really is it just hits on a lot of those same things with the monster men and
Right.
all of those things without really it just doesn't add a lot in my opinion. There's sort of the subtext with the rabbi and the anti-Semitism, which you know certainly is interesting to inject into it, but it felt odd for this book in that like there's
The enemies aren't actually Nazis.
the enemies aren't actually Nazis, and also like
Like
okay,
if it had turned out that like the criminal was part of the brown shirts or the
yeah, or
silver
the
shirts
German
or
American
the
Bond or whatever it was.
right.
I mean, I mean, like it's an interesting thing because Judaism is so intrinsically tied into the comic book medium.
Hmm.
You know, with well, from my place, like all of the
Yeah.
people who created comics in the 30s were young Jewish men, and obviously, like that's a big thing in Cavalier and Clay and all of those uh, stories. But uh, Batman is so intrinsically waspy that it was
Right.
like, I always the one thing I always remember is what was it it was either in the late 80s or early 90s. They did a Ragman series where they changed they made the rag suit into a golem, like
Okay.
a material, not material, but fabric, like a fabric. There's clay golems, there's metal golems, that kind of thing. And they made it into that, and that it became about. And I don't remember the character who is. I don't remember the secret identity of Ragman off the top of my head, but they explored the fact that he was Jewish and that he had this Jewish history. And I always find that interesting, but in this, it just felt like it was just jammed in there.
Yeah,
uh, because of the time period, obviously, but it also was not, it's just, as you said, like if the creation of these monster men and the whole conspiracy with the the prison, the prison and everything, and the death row inmates, they were turning into monsters. Like if that had all tied into some sort of, Nazi or anti-Semitic conspiracy, it would have been great. But as it was just sort of this thing that happened. Yeah.
right. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think for me, one of the issues um was that while all of the concepts were cool, taking Gotham back to a pre-World War II Gotham,
yeah, yeah. 30,
uh,
yeah,
dealing with the realities of the nation at the time.
yeah,
Too often when we look at that era, we don't we kind of gloss over the ugly parts.
sure.
Um, I think that they didn't really take the disparate parts and put them together very well,
Well,
um, which is doubly difficult because Tom King and Phil Hester with Gotham Year One and um, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips with Pulp have taken the parts recently and
yeah,
and put out masterpieces.
sure.
Um, so like to to
Well,
to go after them together and not even manage to, I mean, it's like a big swing and a miss when it should have been, one would
well,
hope, relatively easy to at least knock out a single.
yeah. I mean, and I look. I would say I would call this. I mean, I would call this a solid double. I mean, like it
Okay.
does it like I got to the end and I wasn't like wanting to throw it through a wall or
Oh
something or
no, 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 no. And I'm not.
light it.
It's certainly not strike three to me. I feel more
Yeah.
like um. I mean, how to put it? I
They,
almost
as
hope
they
that there's a,
as they
second night because
I
it,
mean,
it's still completely redeemable.
right. I mean, like there's another podcast where they use the phrase a gentleman's six, where it's like if you take things from 1 to 10, like a gentleman's six is like, yeah, well, it worked and it was fun to watch, but it wasn't like it
Yeah,
didn't.
that's fair too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could go with
I
that.
mean, I think that one of the things when you're dealing with one of these characters, right? And I have many feelings about these characters, and I think that it is great to deal with larger issues and use these characters to do so. But if you're going to do that, you have to focus the narrative on what you're trying to say. You can't just because like I'm going to just tell a Batman story. And then I think that if you're just going to tell a Batman story, that's great. And you can actually like one of my pet peeves is like when people are always like, oh, Batman is just a billionaire that beats up on poor people. I mean, because I think that that's trying to put something on these narratives that they're not really designed to carry, you
Right.
know? Batman is as rich as he needs to be to do whatever he needs to do at any point in the story, right? That's the point of him being rich. It's not a statement about anything. It's just we want him to be able to have whatever equipment he needs to have at any given moment, right?
But
So,
I mean, that's actually another thing that, I mean, they did just enough to go, oh, he could do all of these other things with the money, but didn't really explore it or,
right. But I mean, like, unless you're actually going to talk about that,
right,
you can't, like, the minute you start indulging that, but not really exploring it,
right.
you start to break the narrative, right?
Mhm.
Because I can read, like, mainstream Batman books, I can read that and be like, okay, all right, he's got the Wayne Foundation, he's got all this other stuff. it's hand waving away that question, but at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like virtually everything in a superhero comic book is hand waving away something, right?
Right.
You know, so but the minute you try to indulge more realistic takes on things, if you don't really dig into it, you start to like the structure starts to break.
Right.
So the minute like if they had just done this book as a okay, we're going to explore those early Batman stories that maybe people don't want to read because the artwork is really infantile, let's say, for
Hmm.
a modern audience. Um, uh, that would have been fine. And I think Matt Wagner has done that. I think he did that. I know he did a Monster Men series
Right.
that was very similar to that. Um, I mean, if you do that, then you're great. You're golden. You're just telling a Batman story, and you're doing it in this sort of time period, and you're doing it with this sort of style. But the minute you start trying to act like this story is touching on larger issues,
Then you need to
better,
actually touch on them.
yeah, you either need to actually do that or you just cut that stuff out. I mean, like it felt like it
Right.
needed an editor to say just that. Like,
Right.
okay, if we're gonna have this whole subplot about the rabbi and
Well,
uh
and for that matter, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the movie they're making uh that sounds an awful lot like, let me go find that scene so that I can get the name of the movie right. Is it in the first? When did they show up to give him a hard time for canceling the movie?
oh
Um,
yeah, that's I don't know what book that is. Which
it
one
might
of
have
these?
been in the second ish.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, no, it's in the first. Uh, Night of a Thousand Cuts.
right.
Um, it sounds like I know that there was okay, it's not actually the name of a movie, but I know that there was a a movie that was produced and wound up incredibly limited, completely, essentially buried, um, in this era that was exposing fascism. So
Hmm.
it kind of seems like toss out to that. It seems like this is like more than, hey, step up and fund our movie rather than being a pussy. It's like
Right,
this movie is important. Step
right.
up and fund it.
Well, I mean, and it's certainly like Night of a Thousand Cuts certainly has relevance and
Right,
reflection of Night of Broken Glass, you know.
right.
Um, uh, but again, it's like
But again, it's just there. It's not
right,
something that's really
right.
played
It's
with.
not. Yeah, it's except for it's like it's the 1930s. We're talking about fascism. We're talking about anti-Semitism. We're talking, okay, great. Like, but how does that all come together? And I think that it just doesn't. I mean, like that, like there's really no other way to put it. And I hate to be that way about it, but it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
yeah.
it's
I think I would only
because it's
recommend
like
this to Batman fans.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you're a Batman fan, like it's a cool aesthetic. It's a
Right.
cool, I mean, like the art is
Particularly if you already like Batman Elseworlds type stuff and
right.
you want to see a Batman in a the art is amazing. The writing is good on like a dialogue level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
Um
I think that like if you were going to ask me, like I could give you, because I am a Batman fan,
Right,
but if somebody was to ask me like, oh, what's a good Batman Elseworlds, I could give you like six that I thought were better than this.
right.
Like you Speeding Bullets, Gotham by Gaslight, Holy Terror, I think is amazing, and deals with some of the same things, except in a Christian fundamentalist sort of way. Um, but I mean, it's really funny because like I can't. It's almost it's really hard to talk about because it's not it's not so terrible that I wanted to throw it through a wall, and it's not good enough that I think it's worth saying, oh, everybody should read this.
Yeah, no, like if I'd read this and debated whether or not to talk about it in the normal episode, it just would have gone in the pile that I don't talk about at all. Um, but we picked it out for our book club, and I didn't read it early enough to go, "Hey, Mark, let's pick another book."
Well,
I
no, I
read
mean,
it
like, and
last night,
I didn't
so
really, I didn't really either. But I mean,
right,
like, and I also think that it's just as worthy to talk about things that don't work,
right.
as things that do. I mean, and like if I, it's the kind of thing that if I could talk to Dan Jurgens about it, I would love to understand what the genesis of this whole thing was, like, and
Right.
what
Well, and
why
I
he
mean,
wanted to do it.
I could see things going both ways. I could see like it originally having more interconnective tissue, but them deciding that we're only giving you 3 issues instead of five, and this
Right.
is the part that you should cut,
Right.
you know.
Or
Or I could,
or that it started out as let's just retell some of these very early Batman stories in that 30s milieu, and then as you get into it, you're like, well, we should really talk about this. It's hard to not talk about that. I mean, that's all part of it. I don't know. I mean, it's so, it's like, I mean, like good things. Like you said, I think the dialogue is good. I think it captures the spirit of it. I think the art in the main, like I love the figure drawing. I love
Mhm.
the the style of it. Like I said, the one thing about it that it bugs me, and it bugs me in a lot of because a lot of people do it now, and it really does bug me. It's that idea that okay, you took a photo, like I'm looking at this picture where he's in the synagogue, and which looks amazingly like a Catholic church, but
it
let's not.
does.
That
Though
it's
there are
clearly,
some with similar architecture. There's even a handful where it's like the
and maybe
Catholic
they took,
Church was eventually purchased by the
yeah,
Jewish.
but but
But yeah,
it's clearly just a photo that they you know ran through Photoshop and desaturated it down to the just
right.
the black and white because
See, I am not actually bothered as much as you are by this. It's not how to put it. It's not that always my favorite style, but like I think Alex Maleev does it a lot with his Daredevil stuff, and I've always liked it there.
what's
Um,
the art is very Maleev
right. You
adjacent.
know, um,
I don't know. I always think back to I remember a friend of mine who wanted to be a comic book artist was talking to Tim Seeley,
right,
who is an acquaintance of mine.
right,
And Tim was like looking at his stuff and he's like, you got to draw backgrounds. It's like 90% of my job is drawing the backgrounds,
right.
right? So, it's just like, because I think about when um um yeah, it's just like I think about that. I think about like when you don't like when I see people who specifically are not drawing backgrounds, it always makes it like, and this is my this is my
Right. I
you
mean,
know,
there's still
my opinion. It's like if you're not drawing the backgrounds, I feel like you're just sort of like, and it doesn't like I don't need a ton of background, but it's just
right.
like when I can see that it's just like, oh, you went out and find a photo. Plus, uh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, this is like this is where I like I'm gonna be a jerk here. Like it's also like when the art looks a little too overly photo referenced. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
Well,
it's like,
and I will say that the art is pretty and the storytelling is good, but what I do feel like is missing is the acting.
oh yeah, I mean, like one of the like, and I'm looking at this page right now, and I'm like, okay, this feels very photo referenced. Okay, great. I understand that. I mean, it was Brian Bendis when Joe Quesada asked him to come and work for Marvel, and he was like, I'm asking you to come as a writer.
Right.
We don't want you as an artist because it was every single panel was a photo reference. And you know what? If you have
Well,
to,
and when it wasn't, it was not great.
yeah. I mean, but I look at these drawings and I'm like, okay, this is all photo referenced, and it's better than what Bendis did.
Yeah.
I mean, because Bendis almost looked like he was tracing, and that's fine. I mean, like when you're doing your own work and you're trying to generate stuff by yourself, I understand when you make like at least it's not AI. Let's just say
Well,
that.
and that's one of the arguments I will make in favor of photo reference and Photoshop and whatnot is uh, comic art is about the storytelling.
Sure.
So, if you can put together the storytelling, now you're not going to be my first choice of artist for the most part. Maybe Alex Maleev. Alex Maleev does some pretty amazing stuff, but I know.
Right. Well, I mean, and like
Um,
there's always an example of somebody who takes it and does it
right.
extremely well. Yeah. I mean,
Well, but that's the other reason that I don't mind other people doing it is if one person has done it extremely well, then somebody else is eventually going to do it extremely well differently. Um, no, it's not my favorite type of art, but I mean, Alex Ross is heavy photo reference, and
sure.
you know,
Well, I mean, but we all love Alex Ross. We all do. But I, much like with this, things begin to feel very static.
yeah, no, I think
Uh,
Alex Ross is much better on covers than he is on
yeah.
storytelling in the book. And the one where he did great storytelling in the book, the Fantastic Four one he did recently,
Yeah.
doesn't feel as photo reference.
Well, and it's also not fully painted.
Right,
It is basically line art, ink
right.
and colored. I mean, and that's not to we, I'm not trying to bag on anybody. I'm not trying
No,
to
no, it's just
because
different
like
art styles.
it's
And
brilliant and certainly nobody can argue with Kingdom Come or Marvel's in that art was intrinsically part of what made those amazing
right,
because they made you feel like you were really there looking at it.
right,
But like I think I was just reading a retrospective on Marvel's just the other night, and they were talking about that, and I was like, it's funny because in the days of like Stan and Jack and Steve Ditko, that kind of art, no matter how beautiful or realistic looking it was, I don't think it would have ever, the whole Marvel style was as
right.
dynamic and
Bigger than life.
exaggerated as possible. And that's part of what was the magic of that book, but it was also like the most uh unrelated to what they were honoring. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know. Like we're getting kind of down a rabbit hole of talking about photo referenced art, but I mean, like,
But
is
I mean, book clubs go where book clubs go.
right. I mean, but it is one of these things when you put people in a bat costume
Yeah.
and you're basing it on a photo reference, uh, you got to be real careful because sometimes it starts to look either like I'm looking at this drawing of Batman right in front of me right here, and it's like it almost doesn't really look like a mask,
Right.
you know? And that's sort of part of the problem is that these things that we're talking about when we talk about superheroes, and obviously, if we were dealing with a real hardcore crime book, uh, a detective story or a mystery or something like that that wasn't about people in costumes, you could possibly that like the art can be different, but like the thing is you have to make that costume look like it's actually works if your artwork is gonna be this realistic,
Right.
or this leaning towards realistic because it's comic book artwork. It's not really realistic,
Right.
That's like we were actually, we're in rehearsals for House of Ideas, and we were talking about Jack coming back to moving to DC in the 70s, right at the same time that like Neil Adams was becoming the most popular comic book artist, uh, you know, working. And that Adams had a real solid sense of anatomy, you know, shadow, rendering, all of those things, which was not what Jack Kirby did, you know. Jack Kirby did blindingly unrealistic, blindingly dynamic figures, and that you have to be so good to be able to take a character in a fairly ridiculous costume and draw it in a really realistic way to make the reader go like, wow, that's so cool. Because otherwise, like, I understand what they're doing with the ears in this book, but they look kind of goofy every
Yeah.
once in a while, you know? It's like,
So
yeah,
I have
anyway,
I have one observation of one thing that I did really like, and then a
yeah.
couple of questions I wanted to toss out. Uh, the one thing I did really like is I can't think of another Batman that's this amateur. Uh, that's this trying to figure it out as he goes. That's this getting the crap beaten out of him and trying to figure out how to heal himself because he
Hmm.
can't just go to the hospital.
Right.
Uh, and I kind of like that because even in like some of the origin stories, like Batman Year One and Chip Zdarsky's The Night, you learn all sorts of stuff about how he got there, but there doesn't feel like it was hard enough.
Hmm.
You
Well, I mean,
know?
yeah, no, I think that, I mean, there is that great sequence in year one. I mean, and to me, year one is the
Oh,
gold standard
absolutely.
for this stuff. Where he goes out not in the costume, but just in a disguise
Right.
and tries to do something, and he comes
Mhm.
back and he's like bleeding out,
Mhm.
and there is a sense of him learning how to do it, right?
Right.
Um, I mean, and I guess, I certainly clocked that. I mean, like, I think that there's been such a lot of, okay. I think a lot of times when people deal with Batman in a book like this, where it is it's essentially an Elseworlds book, right? It is not regular Marvel or regular DC continuity. Um, I think that there is an immediate desire to de-perfect him
Right.
because I think that when you deal with Batman the standard DC continuity where he is in the world with, Superman and Wonder Woman and these characters who, in a lot of ways are like gods among men.
Right.
You have to elevate him to work with those characters, right? He has to be the smartest guy in the room. He has to be the best at everything. And I mean, and I actually agree with that. I mean, I think that idea that like standard DC continuity Batman being the guy who, with enough time and enough planning, can beat anybody. I actually like that about the way
I
they
love
handle
that.
it.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it is because it is in its own way, it provides a limitation of it. Like he needs time and he needs planning.
right.
But
No, no.
um,
And again, I mean, I was only saying that
yeah,
I like when you show that that's something he had to work for rather
sure.
than something that he just magically had because he was a rich son of doctors.
Right. But I
Um,
mean, like, I think that I guess in a way I have sort of become, I don't know, maybe I've read more Batman stories or what than you have, but I don't know.
Probably.
But I mean, I think that that didn't, I certainly clocked what you're saying, but I actually didn't find it as unique to this story as you did.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, like I think that it, like I said, it is usually in a Elseworlds kind of situation, but
but it does lead to the two questions that I really have.
uh-huh.
Um, the first is all of this without Alfred. What do you think about the decision not to have an Alfred? Because that's part of what made his ability to do all these things believable is that he wasn't quite working alone.
Well, see, and here's where it comes back to what I was saying before, is that I think that this book kind of feels a little cynical to me in
Right.
that we're trying to recontextualize all of those really early Batman stories where there was no Alfred.
Okay.
You know, it was, when you look at Detective 27, and the structure of that, where you don't actually find out that it is Bruce Wayne for certain until the last panel of that book. And he's at home alone. And then, like, I don't know how many issues it is. I can't remember off the top of my head before Alfred is even a character, right?
Right.
So I think that, again, that sort of cynical reimagining of okay, all right, you kids don't want to read something, like that 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 fantastic Bob Kane artwork that
The Who artwork?
well, his name was on it, whatever. But like work that was completely adequate for the 1938
Right.
uh, or 1939, 1940, whatever, seems woefully slapdash and amateurish now.
Right.
And some people don't want to read that, and the writing is simplistic. And so I think that again, it brings it back to I think that this is trying to recontextualize that first phase of the Batman character for a modern audience. And which is why the ears look the way they do, and the way why he has the purple gloves, and I think that's why there's no Alfred, and that's why, and I
Well,
think
and it,
part of it, and I think that what you're saying is actually does fit in with that because it's Batman without all that stuff,
right.
right?
And
Yeah.
you've read way more early Batman than I have.
Mhm.
This is first a like factual question and then a stylish question. Like in Monster Men stories early, was it just a syringe that would turn them into Monster Men? Because like it had a whiff of Bane venom to it.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was if my memory serves, I mean, I believe it was Hugo Strange. I
Okay.
actually kept waiting for Hugo Strange to show up. to tell you the absolute truth.
Okay.
Uh, uh, to God, I hope I'm right about that. Um, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but my memory says that it was Hugo Strange had this formula that turned men into giant monsters.
Okay.
Um, and that's and like I said, the whole time I was reading this, I was like, well, Hugo Strange got to show up at some point, right? And I was sort of surprised when he didn't. Um, but again, I think that that comes back to that idea of like, oh, we should make it about something
Well,
more,
and then related to that and my previous question, the one thing that he is already expert at is chemistry.
yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
mean,
like, I think that that sort of stuff, I mean, like, to me, like, if we want to get down to the brass tacks of that, I mean, like, that makes sense. Like, chemistry is something that you can learn out of a book. You
right.
can sit down and learn it. You can learn,
But with no infrastructure in place, the fact that he would be able to get the materials and I mean that's where being missing Alfred and a Lucius Fox.
right? Well, I mean,
I mean it's just interesting to me the things that get hand waved and the things that don't.
I mean, but that's the ultimate hand wave with
It
Batman.
is.
He's as rich to get he's as rich as he needs to be to get whatever he needs to have to resolve this story.
Right.
And that's sort of to me, that's the number one rule of Batman. It's like, oh, he needs to have a space rocket. Well, of course he can buy a space rocket because he's the he's just got all the money in the world, you know? And it's like that's just like if you start trying to drill down into that, you start to break the whole thing because you're just like because the concept can't carry that, you know. Um, but yeah, no, I think that but just in for pure logistics, like I think that that is like him being an expert in chemistry. It's because like I think that that works because chemistry is it's a science. It's something you
Yeah.
read in a book. You don't have to have if you're smart enough to figure out what the book says, then and you know that's another consistent thing about Batman is like he's always hyper intelligent, right?
Right.
So you know, if you can read something in a book and understand it and replicate it, then you can do it, right? Uh, you you can learn martial arts, and that's great until you're actually out in the real world and have to, you know, like then there's all these variables.
Succeed.
Yeah, there's all these variables that you have to adjust to, and you have to uh, compensate for. And I think that those are like to your very point, and I think you are right. We do see him failing, making mistakes, but it's all in the, and I think smartly in the realm of
Fighting.
actually doing it rather
Right.
than things I can be and be at the house with my chem set and figure that out because, oh, here's how you do a pH balance or whatever it is, you know. Uh, that doesn't change. That's the way it works. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I think that that is interesting. I mean, like I even think that this relation, because like in a way, the relationship with the rabbi, which I can't remember his name, the relationship with the rabbi almost becomes the Alfred relationship.
It does.
Uh, so
At least from the sense that the rabbi becomes his conscience.
yeah, and it's and a confidant, and
Right.
yeah, um,
Well, and that's the other reason that again, I almost hope that this is like the strike one with like more pitches to come because there's so much to develop with the rabbi. There's so much to develop with the actress.
mhm.
Um, there's so many ways that you could take this and have it be a great, great jumping off point
Right.
for something cooler.
I mean, and I'm sure they were hoping for that. I don't know what the
Right.
sales numbers were like, but I
Well,
mean,
and it's relatively recent.
yeah,
You I mean, it's been collected now, right?
yeah. Well, I mean,
But
and
like recently collected.
right. Yeah, I mean, like this came out, this is just a few months old, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
But I mean, the actress, to delve into the early, Julie Madison was the original like girlfriend character. She was part of his,
Wow. There's a name that I don't even know.
right? She was like pre Vicky Vale, pre, I think uh so yeah, she's returned a number of times. There was if you remember the Secret Origins story series that DC did in like the 80s. I remember one of the first issues was a I think it was Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers did the Golden Age Batman, and it was a whole deal where he was supposed to marry Julie Madison and uh, didn't. Uh, it's very they played it off. It was very similar to the whole Mask of the Phantasm thing with where he's
Yeah.
like it just doesn't hurt as much anymore and blah blah blah, and then eventually he has to do what he has to do. Um, so yeah, that character comes directly. Again, I think we're talking that is the part of it that I really struggle with because it feels like it doesn't. There's a part of it that feels very uh corporate and cynical of like let's just redo all of these things and do it in
Right.
a well, and then it's
Well,
black label so we can do things that are a little more adult and all
right.
that.
I don't actually, I mean, I'm on record a number of times saying my favorite Spider-Man origins and early stories are the Ultimate Spider-Mans because they took everything that was good about the Lee and Ditkos and Bendis, can write. Lee had moments.
I would I mean like I would argue that point. I think that there is
I know a lot of people that would, I
I think that it's very much a product of its time, and
yeah.
Stan Lee is a product of his time, and certainly like I think that you could really have a conversation about whether or not comics would be what they are if not for Stan Lee's writing.
Oh, they absolutely would not be.
I think that
As a comic innovator, I'll give Stan a ton of credit. As a comic champion, I give him a ton of credit. Um, as just a writer, not as much.
I mean like I think the other thing is the other thing that has to be like that we do come from a different time,
Yeah.
right? That reevaluations of the origins are always going to be more geared towards our sensibilities.
Right.
Like there's no way around that.
Yeah.
Uh, so uh, that becomes the baseline,
Yeah.
like yeah, I mean like quite like and believe me, I am a huge fan of the Ultimate Spider-Man series. I mean, I think
Right.
of all of those Ultimate books, that's the one that really
Well, and I'm not.
justified the existence of that line.
It would not exist without Stan and Steve and then John
Right.
Romita.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean,
It's sort of like,
most
it's
of the plots are completely lifted
sure.
from other stuff. They're just
Right.
fine tuned, they're tightened. The dialogue is significantly better.
Well, I think that also, like I think there is an impulse among I think there's an impulse in our society right now to try to draw some sort of line between the inspiration and the inspired work.
Right.
I mean, this is like, like, okay, look, uh, it's something that drives me insane about Star Wars fandom right now is that, you know, you have people who are like, oh, I don't like the new stuff because it does not George Lucas. And then there's people like, and I feel like the pushback has been, well, Lucas sucked, right? And I'm like, you know, I believe that like I like a lot of things. I like a lot of Star Wars. There's some Star Wars I don't like. Some of the new stuff I don't like. Some of the new stuff I do like. But the other thing is that I sit there and I go like, you realize like none of this stuff that you think is so great would ever exist if it wasn't for the fact that George Lucas had this idea,
Right.
right?
Which
So
is why I'm always more nuanced. Lucas
yeah,
was a great world builder, great storyteller, and we owe so much to his special effects. It's not even funny.
right,
All you need to do is look at Empire and Jedi to know that he can't be producer and writer and director all at once and make a great movie.
right.
When
Well,
he's
you know, I
willing
think,
to be the producer and focus on the stuff that he's good at and he's clearly most passionate about,
mhm.
and let somebody else handle the writing and the directing with him overseeing it. I mean,
Sure.
anybody who thinks his hands weren't very much in the kitchen on those
Right.
is insane.
Well, I mean, well, and
But
this, I mean, like, and this gets way off topic, but I mean, like, it's also like, and everybody wants to be like, well, there was things that changed, and I'm like, of course, there's things that changed.
right.
Like, whenever you tell a story, you change things as you go, but it's also like eh, you also have to know what the story is about,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and like to bring that back to what we're talking about, I don't really know what this book is about.
No,
This series, I don't like.
it doesn't quite. They do too much hand waving on the mystery to make it just a mystery. They introduce a lot of fascinating topics, but only introduce them. They don't actually like run
Explore.
with them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that yeah, I mean, and that's like to make this connection, and then we can move on past the Star Wars things. Is that that's kind of the way I feel about the the sequel trilogy? Is like there's all these great ideas, but nobody knew what that story was about,
No.
and then
I
that
love
meant
each of those movies individually and don't think they work very well as a trilogy at all.
no, they don't. I mean, and that's because nobody sat down and said, okay, the point of this story, the point of
Right,
the Ray story is this.
right,
And that no matter what George Lucas changed working on the original trilogy or even working on the prequel trilogy, he knew what the point of those stories were. And so that when the changes happened, they at least were towards the point of what it was. Like
right,
you have Ryan Johnson come in and he says, "Okay, where do you want the story to go?" And they're like, "Wherever you want." And it's like,
right.
"Okay, but that's you must know where we're headed, right?" And nobody did. That's and that doesn't like I still think Last Jedi is the best thing that has ever come out of the Disney Star Wars era. I think I have lots of problems with it. I have things
Mhm.
that I don't like about it, but I still like can intrinsically sit down and go like that's somebody trying to make a movie, not trying
Right.
to fill uh a franchise. Just sell
Well,
IP.
and
Anyway,
ironically, what the Disney Star Wars age does do for me is that the same as the original trilogy, where um the easiest to watch all by itself is the first one.
yeah,
The the best is the second one. And the one I enjoy the most for completely personal reasons, Ewoks in for Return of the Jedi and Carrie Fisher for Rise of Skywalker is the last one.
right. Well, but I mean, like, and it is interesting because as I'm talking about this, it makes me like this is what I kind of feel about this book is like it's it feels like an exercise in IP extension
Right.
instead of something with a real intrinsic thematic point to it. And
That's
and maybe, maybe Dan Jurgens I'm assuming that he is the driving force here, but who knows? But I mean, maybe he did have some sort of thematic point, but I don't think it came through clearly.
no.
It just feels like a number of things happening, right? And I think it could have worked as just like, hey, let's tell a Batman story, but set it in this sort of environment. What I would argue the best of the Elseworlds, the real hardcore marketed Elseworlds books do, which is like Gotham by Gaslight has no, like it doesn't it's not trying to say anything about that time period. It's just like, let's put Batman in this time period and see what that's like.
Right.
Or, or Speeding Bullets, where it's like, okay, it's still a Batman story, but what if Kal-El crashed outside of Gotham and was found by the Waynes?
Right.
And it's not trying to say anything other than just in a very Pulp Fiction kind of way saying like, what if this happened,
Right.
which that's the other
I mean,
company. But
yeah, I was about to say too bad Marvel got to that title first
right. But I mean, like,
because in some ways Marvel hasn't utilized it as well. I mean, I say that as a lover of the what if stories, but they're all anthologies, and like for every good 8 pages, there are like 80 pages of
well, I mean, like, the one problem with the Marvel what if stuff that I think Elseworlds was able to avoid was they tried to make it into a regular series,
right,
which means that you end up with this really kind of up your ass, fanish
right.
things that are
Well, and
like,
again, half
who
the time it
cares?
wasn't just a regular series; it was an anthology series. So you'd
Sure.
have like 2 or 3 what if stories in one issue. You know,
Right,
so it's like let's pose this what if and just go to the end game rather than actually telling a story.
right. Well, I mean, and it's like, what if I can't remember. There was something that like in the 90s, I think they tried to relaunch that book and it was like, what if, I don't know,
Right.
Wolverine became a vampire during Inferno or something like that. And I was like,
I,
I
I
don't
do
care.
I do have to say that I haven't read any yet, but right now they're doing What If Donald Duck. And I am kind of curious to know what if Donald Duck became Wolverine, told by a couple of the like
You know,
pro Italian Donald Duck
I think
creators.
I think that these crossover books with the various, because Warner Brothers has, or DC is, intrinsically linked to Warner Brothers. So, the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, and then now Marvel, of course, being part of the Disney conglomerate is key. Uh, I have been amused by various uh, of those crossovers. I actually spoke to one of the guys who wrote one of them at the convention this year. But
Did you get to talk to?
Heath Corson,
Okay, I don't know him.
um, he's working on the oh God, what's the name of it now? This is the line. It's with Patton Oswalt, the villains,
Okay, he's working on the I just had that word in my head, the minor threats.
Minor Threats. That's right. He's doing a new miniseries in that uh, shared universe.
Okay,
Uh, so it's not directly tied to the books that Patton is doing, but it's in that same universe.
right.
We actually had lunch together. He's was originally from Chicago, so
Oh,
he knew some people, and we got us in touch and sat down, and he kind of ran through the whole. It sounded really good. So, um,
Oh, did he do some Scooby Apocalypse? That's something that I haven't read yet, but
yeah,
I've heard only good things about.
yeah, he was really great. We had a good time. Um, he took copies of the plays, so
Good.
and was very excited to read them. And he says he's actually planning to come in and see the third one, so that's
Very
exciting.
cool.
Um,
You have to
but
let me know when. I'll come say
uh,
hello.
I will. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't remind our listeners that the House of Ideas, the third part of the four color trilogy, will be beginning previews August 23rd.
Which is also a good point. We should probably actually wrap up so that we can
Yeah.
schedule a House of Ideas podcast, hopefully.
Yeah, we should actually do that. I can whoever you want. I mean, I have two really good actors playing Stan and Jack.
Well,
Uh,
let me take us out so that
okay.
we're not telling the world this.
Wait, no, I got to I got to promote. I got to promote.
No, definitely promote, but until we know what the dates
Hey
are.
there. Hey there, Mary Marvel Marchers.
Right, right. This has been Mark
Excelsior.
Pracht, the playwright of the four color trilogy, the third of which, House of Ideas, will be opening at the City Lit Theater on August 23rd in Chicago. Get your tickets now. Um, and this has been the Pulp Blotter, where this month we talked about Batman First Night and managed to find the things that we liked about it, and yeah. Um,
Yeah. I'll just say citylit.org for tickets.
That's right. Citylit.org. This has been the Pulp Blotter on 22 panels. We will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.